There are a lot of people out there, including Mark Dice, who say that if you're a liberal, if you're a Democrat, then you've been infiltrated by the woke mind virus and that you have some kind of mental problem, which, that's true. You know why? Because it's statism. It's the idea that there are people in government who have the right to control you and you have the obligation to obey their controllers, the controllers, or you can be rightly, in the eyes of the statist, punished if you don't follow their commands. Being a statist is no different than being a rightist or a leftist because it is statism. That's what statism is, the idea that people have the right to rule you and rob you, and there's nothing you can do about it except vote every 4 years and hope that the robbery and the ruling and the controlling is just a little bit less inconvenient. Let me just show you what Mark Dice said. And I want to remind you, before we go over this, where Mark Dice actually puts his foot in his mouth and actually reveals that he is on the road to statism, just like Joe Biden is, just like Donald Trump is. I want to remind you that Mark Dice did say that if you don't get out and vote, you are worse than a Democrat.
Well, if you haven't voted yet, you better vote today, because if you don't, then you're really worse than the Democrats, because you know what they're doing is wrong. You know that the fate of the country hinges upon what happens today.
The fate of the country hinges upon what happens at the voting booth. Does it really? So it's going to change who's actually in control of the country? It's going to change the fact that the Federal Reserve is in control of the issuance and value of our currency, which means they own the product of our time and laboring energies here in America. It's going to change that, Mark. If it doesn't change that substantially, and the Rothschilds said under Amschel Rothschilds, give me control over a nation's money and I care not who makes its law, then what does it matter who you voted for if the same puppet masters are going to be in control no matter what puppet you vote for? So you're worse than a Democrat if you don't participate in the humiliation and demoralization ritual of voting. But let me show you the recent hypocrisy by Mark Dice. Listen to this.
Old Joe, welcome to Donald Trump.
By the way, the name of this video right here is The Bidens Go Full MAGA? Things are getting weird.
Trump, the next mustache man reincarnated, the most dangerous man in America, to the White House today with open arms and hung out with him for a few hours. Did the White House staff quit their job in protest? Not that it would matter because they're all getting fired in 2 months anyway. Did they at least walk off the job for the day? No, they all stood around as if it was just another day in Washington.
I were sitting here as Caitlin was on, looking at that imagery, and it's really stunning. Those are Biden staffers. They're in the EOB. Some of them are lower level, some of them perhaps a little bit higher. But they're there to watch a history moment being made that nobody standing there wanted.
And let me point out that political antagonists on both the right and the left thrill at owning the other side. Mark Dice and people on the right are wanting to own the libs. The leftist propagandists on the Democrat side want to own the Republicans. So it's all about owning and making them look bad on the other side and generating those clicks and views, all for propagating the division that the banking masters and the corporate elitists want us to foment and propagate.
But if he really was the most dangerous man in the world and a threat to our democracy, why wouldn't they all just walk off the job and protest? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a good idea. Why wouldn't the Republicans walk off the job and protest? You know, Republicans are constantly saying the other guy, even when they have their own primaries, they say that their own people in their own party that they're running against, that guy's a criminal. You don't want to vote for that guy. Or like Marco Rubio was saying that Donald Trump is a con artist and a con man and a big fraud. And now Marco Rubio looks like he's got a cabinet place in Trump's administration. Really? That's how it works. That's how it works in politics. They will lie to you, and then when the dust settles at the end of the show, they go and they have a beer and they split the bounty because they just got done plundering the American people by deceiving them. It's the same thing with WWE, and Mark Dice is playing into this whole charade.
All liars. Here it is, folks. Just one of countless images and videos to come in the next 4 years that are just going to bring smiles to Americans' faces as Donald Trump reassumes leadership where he belongs.
Meeting is now underway. Again, we don't know exactly how long it will last, but we're about to get those
Why is he
remarks.
shaking
Any
hands
moment
with
now,
Hitler?
lasted about a minute, and I'm going to send it back to you.
Why is Trump shaking hands with somebody that Joe Biden just got done saying that MAGA, people who support Donald Trump, are garbage, to the point where it got in the minds of people on the right and Team MAGA so much that they dressed up as garbage bags for Halloween. I think Don Jr. had a garbage bag on. Megyn Kelly had a garbage bag on. So when we talk about the woke mind virus for the people that are, I'm not even going to say the word, but the woke mind virus to the people on the left, that sounds like a woke mind virus or some kind of mind virus for people on the right who are going to put on trash bags because Joe Biden said Team MAGA is garbage. And yet Donald Trump, well, look at it again. Donald Trump is going to shake hands with a guy that just called his followers garbage. Mark Dice does have a good point here. Why would Joe Biden willingly relinquish the reins of power over the entire United States to somebody he's been trying to convince Americans is an existential threat to democracy, which they take to mean liberty and freedom, which it's not? And why would Donald Trump shake hands with the person who basically said half of the country is garbage? Well, you wouldn't unless you're playing the game called politics, which Mark Dice is also playing and propagating and promoting. Mark Dice is a statist propagandist on the right side.
We're about to get those
Why is he
remarks.
shaking
Any
hands
moment
with
now,
Hitler?
lasted about a minute, and I'm going to send it back to you, Jose.
That is a good question. Why is he shaking hands with Hitler?
Make sure you're accommodated, what you need, and we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So,
Good.
welcome
Thank you
back.
very much, and thank you very much. And
He's welcoming Hitler to the White House. This might just cause the Kamala faction of the Democrat Party to become even more unhinged, if that's even possible. Many, I'm sure, are going to accuse old Joe of sabotaging her chances. Have you seen this meme? It's Democrats reacting.
Now, I noticed, I don't know if he plays the rest of it or not, but what Donald Trump says, they're just nice words. When he's been on the campaign trail the whole time saying less than nice words, mean words, words of condemnation. No words of condemnation now because they're sitting in the same room and they're in front of the cameras and they got to play their parts. It's just incredible. It's deceitful.
To Donald Trump's victory, and they all look pretty sad. Nancy Pelosi, Jimmy Kimmel, Tampon Tim, AOC, Barack Obama, except for old Joe down there, who's thrilled. And while it is a very realistic possibility that at some point artificial intelligence may doom the human race, it is producing some pretty fantastic content in the meantime.
All of this stuff right here is pretty funny, but when you really think about it, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are friends behind the curtain. And you saw that with them sitting in the chairs in the Oval Office. They're not going to say bad things about each other because we've got to maintain this decorum, this idea that there's this peaceful transfer of power when there's no transfer of power at all. Puppets don't have power. Puppets are animated by the puppet masters. We remain divided, and people like Mark Dice on the right, Ben Shapiro on the right, Benny Johnson on the right, Brian Tyler Cohen, CNN, MSNBC. They want to keep us divided. They want to keep our identities in political paradigm nonsense. And these guys are continuing to propagate this, and the banking masters love it.
This job is not fun. I know. Missed you in the race. Wish we could get out of here. Oh, Joe's favorite food. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting how people can do this kind of stuff with AI.
Would you like to announce this glorious news? Cringe, Jean-Pierre.
Okay, so today, President Biden met with President-elect Trump for approximately 2 hours in the Oval Office. White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and incoming Chief of Staff Susie Wiles joined the meeting. It was a substantive meeting, an exchange of views. They discussed important national security and domestic policy issues facing the nation and the world.
But I thought Donald Trump was a threat to the nation and to the world. Thank God Donald Trump's total victory last week absolutely crushed their lies and humiliated the Marxist Democrats.
It wasn't a Donald Trump victory. It wasn't a Team MAGA victory. It wasn't a Democrat victory. It was a banking victory. They all are. You know who won? The bankers and the corporate elitists. You know who lost? Every single American.
The mainstream media, causing most of them to just shut their mouths and abandon the insane narratives that they were pushing. Others, however, are in such denial about what it is.
This is interesting with Charlemagne. We covered this a couple weeks ago, but Charlemagne is an absolute hypocrite on this. Mark Dice is right.
That they did. Here's Black Urban Radio host Charlemagne the Fraud, shortly before the election, who was upset that Kamala pivoted from just calling Donald Trump Hitler to, well, gaslighting and lying about other issues that she pretended to care about.
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps.
Well, the camps will only be temporary for the criminal invader illegal aliens. Soon, then they'll be shipped back to their home countries. Well, that was then, and this is now.
Don't y'all find it strange that now that he's won, they're not calling him a threat to democracy?
They? You mean you?
They're not calling him a fascist. I mean, damn, on Monday.
They're not calling him anything.
They can't. On Monday, they was just calling him that. I would think that, you know, if you really believe that, then somebody's speech would be about how America effed up and how things are about to be really bad.
Don't you worry, Charlemagne. The vast majority of Trump derangement syndrome patients.
Charlemagne is right there. You think they would keep calling him that? You think Charlemagne would keep calling him a fascist? And Mark Dice is right about this, that Charlemagne is an absolute hypocrite, and Charlemagne the Fraud, perfect.
Are probably only in remission, and sometime early next year after the inauguration, when reality really sets in, I'm sure it's going to come back. Donald Trump hasn't even been sworn in yet. It's only been just over a week since the election, and he's already working miracles, like making female comedians funny.
Those chicks are so pissed that Trump would, shaving their heads, screaming that they're going to go on a sex strike. You can't threaten people by taking something away that no one wanted in the first place.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. But I did want to point out to you the hypocrisy of Mark Dice on the road of statism. And that's what happens when you are a statist. It's an inherent, it causes you to be hypocritical and inconsistent in your thinking, because whatever criticism you lay on the other side can rightly be placed in your lap. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel further, the links are in the description. Grab a shirt, become a channel member. But more importantly, understand that statism is a mental cancer. And until we root that out, we cannot go after our true enemies. I will see you in the next video.